Hi everyone, this is Tanya Thompson from Of-CourseOnline.com, and as I promised yesterday, we will be doing feet today. I've received quite a few private messages and messages in Of-Course Online to say, please can you address feet? And then every time in a video, somebody will say, we need to do feet. So I was like, okay, we need to do feet. So I'm having a look at footwork today, what our feet could do better, what they're currently doing. And funny, I've actually been doing quite a bit of this. I don't even know if you can see my face, by the way. You might just be looking at my knee or just my foot. I've actually been doing a lot of footwork with a lot of my clients, and the feedback has been quite like, oh my word, I didn't realize I can do that with my feet, or that I should be doing that with my feet, or now I understand why I'm cramping so much in my feet. So, one of the biggest things I think happens often with feet is your clients cramp. And that cramping often has to do with the fact that they don't always work the muscles under their feet. So a dancer, for example, is seldom going to cramp because they're always doing that with their foot. Whereas somebody who never finds themselves plantar flexing their feet is going to cramp underneath. And I remember attending a Pilates class in a very big gym, and this person obviously wasn't properly qualified, or they hadn't done like let's not say that, let's say they hadn't done an extensive course. It was like maybe a 24-hour course, no, less 24 hours, like a 6-hour course or a 5-hour course. And I had an elderly lady lying next to me in the class, and she was saying, oh, her feet are cramping so much. And he proceeded to tell her she needs to increase her salt intake. And I was like, I think she's like over 70. I really don't want her to increase her salt intake. I'm like thinking blood pressure, all kinds of things. So after the class, I said to her, you know what, you really don't have to increase your salt intake. It's just because you're really not used to working those muscles. It's like anything. If you're not used to working the muscle and all of a sudden you put it in a position where you're asking it to contract to its maximum concentric form, it's going to cramp. Look at a lot of men when they go into their first Pilates class or teaser and you ask them to plantar flex their foot, they'll go, geez, under my foot. The other thing I started doing with a lot of the runners is to work their feet as well, especially our clients who tend to have those dropped arches, because we actually never train our feet. So it's so vital, because if you think about it, you have to walk on this for the rest of your life. So you might as well do exercises that's going to get it to work well. But before we can actually do those types of exercises, we also need to make sure that it has a certain amount of flexibility. Really interesting story. I trained a lady who was a dentist. So in her dentist chair, she had that sort of pedal that she had to push. And she said she would do that consistently throughout the day. So she had, let me take this shoe off as well. My feet are now officially exposed. Not the most beautiful on the planet, but hey, they're mine. Okay, anyway, so my feet are, I've got a size 7 on this side and a size 6 on that side, and it's quite easy to see if I put my foot like that. It's so interesting for me to actually buy shoes. I won't lie. So she had, the right foot was the one that was always pushing the pedal. And so this foot looked like that. Luckily my toes are quite nice and mobile. She would actually pull her toes in like this. And this one looked fairly normal. And she couldn't understand why this one is the way it is. And eventually we established it's from her pushing the pedal the whole time, and she would grip her sandals, she was wearing sandals, and she would push the pedal in the dentist chair. So I gave her homework, and this is one of the first things I want to show you today because it works phenomenally well. I also did this with another lady whose both feet were like this, and I gave her something called milking her toes. And what I wanted her to do was to take each toe and pull it like she was milking it. So mine is quite easy, I can do it quite easily. But a lot of people struggle with this because the tendons underneath the toes get really tight. So I wanted them to pull the toe and to try and curl the top of the toe upwards. Just that last part of that phalange, just to pull it upwards. And to do that with every single toe. over and over and over throughout the day whenever they got a break. The one told me she was even doing it when she was on the toilet. I was like, fantastic. I hope you do that a couple of times a day. So that was the one thing. The other thing was not just to pull the toes back as they're curled, but to go under them, stretch them, and pull them back. So you actually want to go under them, pull them nice and flat, and then pull them up, all right? So that was the one. The other one was to have them flat and then pull them over. Not just scrunch it, but to actually extend them, stretch them, milk them, and then pull them over. So it would be that way, and it would be that way, that I wanted them to get that mobility. The other thing was to try and fit the fingers in between the toes. I mean, how sexy is that? But to put your fingers in between your toes so that they can actually get that mobility back. Another thing that I did was I would have them up on their toes like this. Now, normally they would look like that. And I would then ask them to spread the toes with their hands and to pull their foot along the floor and then sit like that, just to get that stretch under the toes and then to lift up from the ankle into that plantar flexion. That made an absolutely huge difference. I cannot even tell you, those two ladies, specifically those two, because they were quite hectic with their toes. When we had done that for about 6 months, I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't believe that those muscles and tendons would start releasing. Another thing I want you to ask you to look at is if your client's weight placement is back on their heels, you'll see that they will grip with their toes. When the weight placement is that 2/3 on the ball of the foot, they will be able to spread their toes. And that's what you want. You don't want that weight back so that the body feels, oh my word, I need to keep them here because she's going to fall over. You want that weight slightly forward so that you can actually relax your feet. So now what do we want our foot to be able to do? Besides the fact that I've now said, flex it back, flex it over. Not everybody can do this. Get your fingers in there. I've got really mobile toes, okay? And that probably comes with the dancing as well. So you want to be able to spread your toes, all right? So there, you're going to get to spread your toes. You want to be able to get that break at your toes. Everybody's arches are different, and we have to remember that. For some people, this is going to be an incredible stretch right over there at the ball of the foot. You then want to be able to have that flexibility, but to your range, all right? Because not everybody has feet like that can totally plantar flex over that much. And when they do that plantar flexion, they're going to feel that stretch in that tibialis anterior, because tibialis anterior does that. So they're going to feel that stretch over the front. Initially, when you ask them to do this, all they actually have to do is push the toes down, and they'll be getting a stretch along the front there. You don't have to push the foot down. You just have to take those toes and tweak them down, and it will increase that stretch over the front because it pulls that joint further down into plantar flexion. The flex back is also important because this is about working through the feet. You want to be able to go ankles, toes, toes, ankles. And then you can go ankles, open your toes, toes, ankles. A little bit of mind body there. So you can go normal ankles, toes, toes, ankles, or ankles, open your toes, like a prehensile, and toes, and then ankles. And then teach your brain to go toes only, toes only. Start picking up things in the shower with your feet. Don't always bend down and pick them up and risk slipping. So there we've got that, okay? This dorsiflexion is important because that means how much are we working through our feet. Our arches are important as well. How much are the muscles underneath our arches working? So I like to have a fairly soft surface for them, besides the fact that I'll show you some in standing as well, but to stretch the front, okay? So I normally, depending on who it is and how stiff they are, normally the rest position does it for them already. I put the foot on the soft surface, my weight is on this leg, and I gently lift up. So there the weight is on this leg. Now they're not allowed to go into that supination. They're not allowed to sickle. They have to keep it in alignment. Weight is on this leg. And then a little bit of pressure on that back leg, just to increase that stretch, all right? And I'm holding myself up with my arms, so it's not too intense. You can even have them sitting and hanging their leg off of the side, all right? And then just putting their foot down like that, just in a standing position. So I'll stand up, you'll still be able to see my feet. In other words, they're standing, and you're just going to get them to do that. A really gentle stretch in the front of the foot, as well as that, getting that motion, and then teaching them up, down and through. And this is what we like to teach the clients, especially when we're doing any kind of jumping work. If we want to get them jumping, we have to teach them ankles, toes, balls of the feet down. Ankles, toes, balls of the feet down. So they can learn that propelling action with their feet. The other stretch is this. Just holding that and getting into that soleus. So I'm down in that squat, and you can even have them sitting on a board if you want to, but just to get into that soleus, or a normal calf stretch with this extended knee for gastroc, and then bending it in for soleus. So that's getting that flexibility into the foot, and that's really important. Then we want to teach our foot that it's like, have you seen some of those people? It's just incredible, the people who don't have arms, what they're capable of doing with their feet. It's unbelievable. Buttoning shirts. I saw a guy the one day that was buttoning his shirts with his feet. I think, wow, it's pretty impressive. So you're going to put your foot on the towel. Now you want to pull the towel closer to you, but you're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to grip it like a claw and like do these little movements, because that's pretty easy. I want them to learn to work the muscles under the feet. Let's think from eccentric to concentric. So I want them to spread the toes and pull it in. Spread the toes and pull it in. Spread, pull. Spread, pull. And that's how you're going to get them to work the muscles under the feet, to cramp less, to get them stronger, so that when they are running, it's so much better. Right. Then, once you've done that, you're going to grip it, lift it, and place it down. Grip it, lift it, and place it down. And you're going to get them to do this over and over and over again, because that's going to strengthen. Right. Then you're going to take your band. So now you're first teaching them ankles, toes, toes, ankles. Ankles, toes, toes, ankles, both feet. Interesting. If you look at my 2 feet, I don't know if you can see it, you'll see that this foot plantar flexes much better than this foot. So there's a little bit of a story behind that. This one does really nice plantar flexion. This one struggles. This is my longer leg, physically longer, and this is my bigger foot. So it doesn't allow me to get to this full range when I have 2 legs standing on the floor and rising up onto my toes, and it never has. And when I was doing dancing, I wish my teachers had known that, because I was like always thinking, this left leg of mine is so lazy when it comes in. It's like I don't have space. But I don't have space because I don't have the plantar flexion and the leg was too long and it couldn't just pull into the center. So this is what you're going to do. You'll see all dancers do this. Where you put this band is important. It goes just on the ball, and just over the toes. Some people's toes are longer than others. And right over there, I've got quite a tight band, and I want it just under that little toe. Right, so how do we do this? We go straight leg. There, my gastroc is getting a stretch, right? You're going to go ankles over. My toes are still back. Toes reach over, and most people cramp. Toes back and ankle back. And it's such a nice movement. I love it. So this is what you'll see so many dancers doing on the side of the stage, or whenever they're rehearsing, not necessarily the side of the stage, but when they're rehearsing or they're in dance class, just to strengthen ankles and strengthen feet. Really important. Then we go over, just the toes pull back, and I keep that over there. And you'll see your clients struggle to maintain that. The brain is like, can I really isolate my toes? Are you sure about that? But you can. So it's just toes over, just toes over, just toes over. And then gently pulling it all the way back. So that one is fantastic. I love it. Right, we can go into so much detail with feet, to be honest with you. Okay, then I love the balance pad. People underestimate how much this will strengthen underneath our feet. Even if you just stand barefoot, one leg on the floor, you will see how much it actually works. Right, so from here, you're going to get them to stand one leg on there, the other one is off, and you want them to use their toes, not scrunch them, but they have to use their toes on the floor and hold that balance and feel how much work is required from around the ankle, under the feet, to help them maintain that balance. A good tip is to tell them that they have to find one spot that they're looking at with their eyes and not to change their eye line. And the longer they stay in this position, the better it's going to be, or the more intense it's going to work. So that is fantastic. I get them to stand on pillows in their house or the mattress, their bed. And that works really, really well. When they're standing on it, I'll have them do gentle bends and stretches unilaterally, so that they also get that proprioception and the muscles under the feet are working in order to hold them there. And they get a lot of work around the ankle. Of course, when we have, say for example, you're now looking at the ankles and you ask your client to rise up, you want to see that they don't go into that supination and they don't go into that where they go into pronation, or as we call it, a sickle in dancing. They want to stay dead straight over there. And you'll see my left foot doesn't go as high as my right foot. So I'll stand sideways and you'll be able to see that. I'll do that. You'll be able to see the difference between the two feet. It's quite substantial. I can definitely feel it. And I can feel my left leg's calf has to work a lot more to get me there. So when you're doing any rising work with them, you want to make sure that they push on the big toe joint, not the big toe. Because the big toe means that if you say big toe, they go like this. They're like, but I'm pushing on the big toe. And you're like, no. I want you to push on the big toe joint on the inside. And now your ankle alignment is better and you're not rolling onto your little toes and pushing on your big toe, and you're not rolling inwards. You're staying in that good alignment, which is what we're looking for. You can even put a small ball in between the ankle, but not at the back of the ankle, slightly in the front, so that they can keep that nice and parallel and in line. It is phenomenal to work with feet. And it's really important if you've got your clients doing any jumping, any running, and anybody who walks needs to work their feet. We just don't do it enough. So you'll see when people come in and they start exercising in your space and you ask them to point their feet, they cramp and they're like, oh my word, that's hectic. And they don't have the flexibility in their feet. And we really need to work a little bit more on our feet so that we can be carried well until the day we are no longer here. So we have to strengthen the muscles under our feet. We have to get our feet mobile so that they're able to cope with more and take us further for longer without giving us issues where we start getting dropped arches, dropped metatarsals. It's all about strengthening the feet. You can even do a hamstring stretch on your back with the band, put the band in the right position and start doing footwork. And it makes a fantastic, fantastic difference. Also working on ankle alignment, also working on calf flexibility, how the calves work, looking at when somebody does a squat, what their feet are doing. It's all related. And when they're standing, is their weight back? Is it central? Or is it forward? So I think that gives you a great idea of what you can do with feet. I can give you 1,000 other things. Maybe I'll do it at a different time. We've got that sale going on until Saturday. There's no pressure, but you can at least get 25% off of anything that you want to learn. So I would definitely jump right in and do it. I've seen a lot of functional anatomy and biomechanics courses going this past week. So clearly that's something everybody loves, and a lot of training your eye. That was another big one that went. Shoulder stability, wow factor, definitely. Lateral pelvic tilt. So you can go and have a look at that, enjoy it. The manual's there, everything is there. If you have any questions, just pop us a private message. And if you want to know anything else about today's video, you can just ask. Have a fantastic day. Take care.